Hi there. Welcome back to Jesus Stole Our Movies. We're going to continue where we left you last time, and we're going to pick you up in the middle of the movie Halloween, the John Carpenter classic from 1978. At the end of this, we'll tell you why we think we shouldn't have been able to watch it and why we should have been able to watch it. Let's get to it.
Dr. Loomis is on the phone with, I believe, Sheriff Brackett.
Yeah, Loomis is at a payphone, and he's calling the sheriff of Haddonfield to warn him. And as luck
Hmm.
would have it, he spots an abandoned pickup truck on the side of the road right next to the payphone booth.
Exactly where he was, right?
He sees that
And
there's a.
not
Go ahead.
not only is there a hospital gown there,
Yep. Yep.
which would already lead you to believe, oh, hey, this must be where the guy in the hospital gown went. He also sees Nurse Ratchet's. What's her actual name? Because I kept thinking Nurse Ratchet, and that's not her
From
name.
fucking once one flew over
Her
the
one,
cuckoo's nest.
yeah, but
I don't remember. I don't think they gave her one.
but he sees the matchbook she was using to light her cigarettes,
The one that we got an
and
extremely close up shot of for no reason
hmm
earlier.
and Dr. Loomis looks at the matchbook like, the hell you say? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
oh my God, it's him.
This is the one that I looked at unnecessarily long earlier.
I'm going to look at it unnecessarily long again. And then
And
he
as
hustles off.
as Loomis turns away towards the camera, he slowly pans to the right, and we could see a body hidden in the tall grass. I love the way that the shot was done because it was kind of in the foreground. It was really cool.
And I
Uh,
like too that like Dr. Loomis didn't see that body because he
right.
already knows how dangerous Michael is. He doesn't need to be reconvinced, but
Yeah.
the audience needs to be reconvinced. And he's so
Absolutely.
focused on his goal that he needs to go and he needs to charge over to Haddonfield.
Right.
Also, can I point out to you,
Mm-hmm.
this is the least Illinois looking
I
crossroads.
didn't even think about that. Yeah.
I was like, oh, this man is in the desert. Like,
Yeah, it's
sorry.
so bright and dry and just
Yep.
yeah, it's very clearly not in the Midwest. So we're back at the school now, and Lori
Hmm.
is walking out with another girl, and they're discussing a party the next night, but Lori doesn't have any plans. Another girl joins them walking, and Lori's looking at her books and notice that the same car that was looking at her from earlier is following them now. And this guy is full on craning his neck to look at him, so it's not like he's just driving by. He's like, who the fuck's that?"
Oh, and they're full on like, and I again, this is we're establishing right that this is before all those slasher things have been like calcified into
Yeah,
tropes. So
right.
we are seeing that Laurie is sort of the more forthright. And
Conservative,
again,
maybe.
this yeah, um this might be like 70s and 80s undercover slut shaming. Like, is that
True.
why promiscuous people always die in horror movies? Because everything has to be so goddamn moral all the time. Who knows? But
Well,
like,
I know in this instance, John Carpenter has specifically said that that was not intentional. It just happened to
mm,
play out that way in this script.
because they are definitely like your promiscuous
Yeah,
slasher teen meatbags,
yeah. Except for Lori. It's almost
except
kind
for
of
Lori.
like beat over the head that Lori's the good one here. One of the girls named Annie yells, "Hey guys, speed kills," as Michael pulls away, and then I'm like, "Oh, she's gonna die."
No, Annie, no.
And as I was texting you yesterday, Annie was banned in my house for this reason. I could cut that because it's a dumb inside joke.
Dude, that was so funny.
You're like the little orphan. I was like, hell no, bro.
I
You gotta
would
think,
have it. I would have lost my fucking mind if Little Orphan Annie was banned in your household. I was like, what? What is anything? There
dude.
is no anything.
What would my little developmental mind have become? I love Tim Curry, and Bernadette Peters was one of my first crushes because of that movie. So,
Really?
oh
Isn't
yeah,
Carol
man.
Burnett the
Miss Hannigan, yeah, but
yeah?
when Rooster, Tim Curry's character comes, his girlfriend is Bernadette Peters.
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, who's that pretty lady?" And I was like 5.
I always remember
Anyway,
just Daddy Warbucks is the coolest name anyone has ever had,
hell
and you're
yeah, it
just like,
is.
if you really think about it, it's like, oh, Oh no.
It's literally just like, where did I make my money?
Right. This man has blood on his hand. Come hang out with me, little orphan girl, and I will pay for your extravagant birthday party with my blood money.
I think you're gonna like it here.
This house is actually built with the bones of all the innocent people that my munitions murdered.
Hey, Punjab, how did you get your job here?
Oh God.
Anyway.
Killed his entire village and he's like, oh, you can have a job.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Way to go. Swell guy. So
Um,
when this is the funny part, when Annie yells at the guy, "Hey, speed kills," Michael hits the fucking brakes so hard.
it's a great tire screech. He's like, you motherfucking what?
You think he's gonna get out? You fucking what, mate?
I've seen shit like that play out on the streets of Cleveland before
Right.
my very eyes, and somebody's about to get a beat down.
Oh, I've seen it too in Baltimore. That's why I cracked up. I was like, "What the fuck?"
She's gonna get her ass beat. And I did notice like they're very antagonistic toward each other. Are these people actually friends? Like Linda and Annie are just not
Yeah.
very nice to Lori. Like, be
Yeah,
nice
they're
to
very.
Lori. She's a
But
peach.
but think about it though. Did you have friend groups that weren't Christian or like weren't very as conservative as like your family was, and weren't they kind of like, oh look at the prude, or oh his dad
Uh,
won't let him do this. He's got to check in with his mom, that kind of shit. Because
yeah,
that happened to
maybe.
me. You know what I mean? I mean, I
Well,
didn't have
I
a
don't.
lot of non-Christian friends, but the ones I did.
Well, and I think it might be a movie thing too, because people are always
True.
way
Like
worse to each other in movies, like movie bullies.
right.
You
Like
know,
splashing water in your face to have a self realization. Like no one does that.
nobody does that. Well, and for us, like we're obviously both male, like cis men,
Yeah.
and male relationships are way more fraught with that antagonism on purpose stuff. I just would imagine like young girls would actually be nicer to each other than boys would be like, "Hey, shitbag! Hey, hey, yeah,
Well, the movie was written by John Carpenter, but I think Deborah Hill wrote it too, so she would
right."
know. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Um, but then we find out that the three girls are planning on meeting up, as two of them are babysitting, and one of them just wants to hang out with her boyfriend. As they
Aw.
continue down the road, the score kicks in again. This is
No, no,
known
no,
as
no,
the.
no. Hold on. One of
Uh-oh.
them doesn't just want to hang out with her boyfriend.
I was
One of
gonna.
them,
Don't do it. Don't do it. Go ahead.
what?
Go ahead. I was just teasing you. Go
One
ahead.
of them
You were like, what happened?
wants to use her friend's babysitting house to have the sex with her boyfriend in another family's home
Yeah, no, it's
while
it's
her
not
friend is
okay.
babysitting. No, sir. No, it is not. Call the cops. Isn't your dad the sheriff? You need to be arrested.
We'll get there.
You may be sick.
um, so yeah. So the score kicks back in, and this is known as the theme, but it's also just known as the shape as the track, which I love.
There's a
Um,
shape.
as they break off, we see the classic shot of the shape watching Lori and her friend, and Lori calls him out. You know, this just shot of him looking at her behind the hedge.
From the bushes. Oh my God, it's
Yeah,
so scary.
it's so dope. Lori calls him out, and the friends yells at him, but the friend yells at him, but he's gone when they look back again. Well, I like to imagine like they glance at each other, and then he does like a quick like.
Yeah, like where did he go? He had to just hightail it through the bushes. Like,
he like to a car like that was parked on the other side because she comes up and he's not behind the hedge anymore. But
right.
that's when they recognize him as the driver from earlier, and Lori's getting a
Hmm.
little skeeved, like I think I might be
Oh
getting
yeah.
followed.
That's why you shouldn't shout at motorists or anyone that you don't know on the street.
Yeah,
Hey, fucker! And then you're gonna get shot.
what I always tell my wife is, you don't know if they have a weapon.
You don't know
uh,
if you cuss out the wrong person's cousin, if that cousin is gonna come and get your ass.
or I
Sorry,
just
I have lived in Cleveland for a very long time. I know how
uh,
to keep my mouth shut.
or one of my favorite lines from the Joker is the only thing that separates me from you is a bad day.
Yeah, sure.
So no thanks. I don't want to be that person's just
Nope.
set off point. The ADR in this moment though is so fucking hilariously obvious.
Oh yeah.
And for those who don't know, that's just like when you re-record a line over a clip. That's just it.
Post post production voice recording, yeah. To get better sound, they do it. A lot of '80s movies are recorded, not even 80s, but 70s movies too, are recorded without sound and they completely dub the audio
Right.
overlap afterward. You'll see
Which is
that a lot with
insane.
Italian films where everybody is speaking their own language. Like you'll have somebody speaking English, somebody speaking German, somebody speaking Spanish, someone speaking Italian, and then later they just overdub it all with English to or
Jesus
Spanish or
Christ.
Italian to sell in whatever market. And that's why it always looks like nobody's actually saying anything to each other in some of
That's
those Italian
hilarious.
movies.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that. That's so
Mhm.
fucking funny.
Well, famously, the one, what is it? The Man with No Name. A
Oh,
Fistful
really?
of Dollars, Few Dollars More, and um, Good, Bad, and the Ugly are shot like that.
Oh, yeah, they kind of talk about that a little bit in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right? They make fun of
Hmm.
that a little bit. Quentin Tarantino. Um,
Ugh.
Lori walks into a guy who's just standing there. And who lets someone walk into them like that? You
Right.
know what I
You're like,
mean?
oh, hey,
Guy
it
just
is it.
lets her just fucking slamming his.
Right. And it's not, it's 1978, so it's not like he was looking at his phone while she came up on him. Like, he was just standing there waiting for this girl to bump into him, like, I'm gonna get you. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like,
well, here's the
and
answer
he's the
to.
sheriff of the
There
town.
you go. There's your answer. He's a fucking cop.
He's patrolling. He just
He's
wants
like,
to.
I'm gonna let this person walk into me so then I can arrest them for attacking me.
You assaulted an officer. I bumped into you. I
And
sneezed within 4 feet of you. You assaulted an officer.
right, I got germs on me. We also find out in that moment that the sheriff is Annie's dad.
Yeah. The sheriff's name is Lee Brackett. Now, I, being myself,
Uh-huh.
my favorite writer in the world is Lee Brackett. Okay.
Ooh.
And I didn't know if this was maybe a reference to the famous writer.
Yeah,
Um, but she was like, she famously wrote the first draft to The Empire Strikes Back. That's not why she's my favorite writer, but she was an old pulp magazine writer. And you know you're a good writer when you can write a scene of someone literally dying and it be the most beautiful thing you've ever read with your eyes.
that's fucking
And I
cool.
don't know if John Carpenter was specifically referencing her because her name is Liegh Brackett.
Like
And
Janet
this is,
Lee.
yeah, as in like the female spelling of Lee, but this is Lee Brackett. And I don't know if that was referenced, but I don't think anybody else would even pay
Well,
attention to that. But I don't know if John Carpenter was like into pulp magazines or whatever back in the day.
I
I'm not
wouldn't be
sure.
surprised because like there's so much of other names hidden in there because like Loomis is the name of the cop looking for uh the Loomis is the name of the police officer looking for Janet Leigh's character in Psycho.
Hmm.
And there's a bunch of other names hidden throughout that are just like references and Easter eggs to other actors and
Uh,
movies. So more than likely, I wouldn't be
Maybe.
surprised. I didn't know that though, so that's really cool.
Well, that's a
Um,
very niche thing that only a bunch of deep nerds are gonna know.
yeah. Well, I think it's fucking cool, and some
You have
other
to
people
read
probably. I guarantee
art.
that there's gonna be someone who listens to this and they're like, "Oh shit, I knew that." You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah,
That's cool to
reference
fucking hear.
reference to some arcane ass esoteric writer from the 40s that nobody knows about. But they
No,
should read it. If you want to read some good ass pulp stories, read some Lee Brackett.
I
She's the
think
best.
I think you saying that just a death scene alone being one of the most beautiful things you could read, I think that's a selling point.
Oh my
Um,
God.
as Lori walks in, it sounds like someone's getting hurt and it scares the absolute shit out of her, but she looks
Hmm.
outside, it's just some kids trick or treating, which
Eh,
as a parent, I've been
yep.
there.
I feel you, Lori. I feel you. There's some of these kids on my street, they'll be screaming. I think I'm going to have to go tackle somebody or like
Yeah.
go carry a child to the hospital in my arms. I think I'm going to have to like run up on somebody being killed by a bear trap. And like, it's just, no, they're just jumping on the trampoline.
Yep.
You piece of shit.
They just thought
And
something was funny.
it's important to note now that like one of the reasons we watch this specific movie, well, the whole point of the podcast is yes, movies we were not allowed to watch as kids because of our strict religious backgrounds.
Hmm.
Um, Trick or treating was so uh, a no go in our
Yeah.
family, like
Right.
that we didn't even at some point know that there was trick or treating in our neighborhood because my mom would always make sure we were elsewhere.
Right.
The idea of dressing up to be someone else, the idea of some of the theological reasonings that they would give. And again, we can use theological in very big air quotes because, as you and I both know, a lot of these people don't actually read the Bible or know what the fuck they're talking about.
It's
One of the
personal
things is like,
theology.
right. One of those things is like Halloween is a time where people commune with spirits, and if you mess around with spirits, you're gonna go to hell. Or it's the same thing as like messing with a Ouija board, or
Yep.
Halloween is a time for witchcraft. Like, okay, yeah, sure. Maybe there are some actual religious rites that people that associate themselves with Wicca or worshiping earth
Hmm.
magics or whatever. Maybe there are specific holy days around this time. I don't know. I'm
Right.
not familiar with those belief systems, but the idea of just treating it like it's this toxic, horrible thing you keep your kids away from and you never even
Yeah.
let them experience is so bizarre to me because what child doesn't like dressing up? What adult, what person, human person doesn't like dressing up and being someone else for a little bit of time? And who doesn't
Uh,
like fucking candy, brother? Tell me that.
Grumpy McGrumpersons.
You don't like if you don't want to hand kids candy and just see the
All
joy on
right,
their face.
hold on. Let's be careful with that one, because
Oh, fuck you, Donovan. No, like
let's not put that message out there.
every year we sit out in our driveway and give kids candy that walk past, and it's just like I don't even have kids,
Yeah.
but like you probably take your kids trick or treating, and just to see them have that much fun and enjoy something that
Oh, just handing
innocent
out the
and
candy
fun.
too, like you're
Yeah.
saying, before we had kids was it's such a joyous experience to have, like seeing the joy on a kid's face when you like, and like you're saying, the costumes alone and seeing the what, because a lot of people will put so much time, effort, personal reason behind their costumes. It's fun to
Mm-hmm.
see. And I've always been one of those people that like the older kids I thought were cool to see because for that reason specifically, they're more aware of who they are and stuff. So when I see a
Sure.
teenager trick or treating, I'm like, this is still a person who's trying to have fun. This is cool.
Yeah.
This isn't like a fucking like, hey, don't you shouldn't you be working? I'm like, no, fuck you. I wish I could still be doing this. You know what I mean?
Okay, Republican dad.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, here comes these. Don't give him the candy. Like, no, fuck you. It's so stupid. But
And it,
yeah, I feel you, dude.
I feel like avoiding like mindsets that would preclude kids from enjoying that or having that fun element of it. Um, that's just limited by education.
Yeah,
Because sure, I can say, oh, there's witchcraft or cats are sacrificed to Satan on Halloween night or whatever. That is a perspective of ignorance, right?
absolutely.
If we educate ourselves, if we learn about the things, or even like talk to people, just actually have a conversation with somebody and
Yeah.
learn about something. Oh, I'm not putting a jack o' lantern out on my porch to ward away the spirits. No, it's fun to carve a pumpkin with kids, and kids love carving the pumpkin. They love getting their fingers in the innards of the pumpkin and making a mess. And
Unless they
it's
have
just
sensory issues.
yeah. Oh, that's me. I can't.
That's my middle kid. She'll
Oh
sit there
no.
and watch, but then the second one of the slimes and he gets near it, no thanks.
Nope. Don't.
But
Do not
no,
touch me.
I agree with you. And the thing about it is though, it's not just ignorance. It comes to a point where it becomes willful ignorance.
Hmm.
They want to use it to just further their agenda, which is the point where you start to realize how much projection is coming from the church because
Sure.
it's always about other people's agenda when it's really just no one has an agenda but them, really.
And well, yeah, but that projecting. Well, later, I noticed that a lot of churches now do trunk or treats. It'll
Trick
be
or
like a
treat.
church like function. They have all the kids come, and people just park their cars in the church parking lot and give the
Yeah.
kids candy. Like, just let them have freaking Halloween, dude. And they'll actually have the kids dress up like what? This wasn't like this in the '90s. Like, well, I wasn't even allowed
Yeah.
to smell Halloween in the '90s. Like, come on.
Yeah, I'll always point out that that was one of the biggest things that I was lucky on as a very religious child was that my mom kind of like told my dad like this is one thing I'm gonna let them have. So we were lucky enough to have that. It was still very like toned down where like I wasn't allowed to be like any kind of monster. That was a bad memory.
Point is that trick or treating is fun, and giving your kids something to look forward to and doing something with your kids is more important than choking the fucking creativity out of them. You
Yeah,
know, imagine building a costume with your kid, or even going to the store and having them
pick
see the
one.
massive display of
Yeah.
costumes and pick whatever they want. Like I can only imagine doing that with some kids and just having kids of my own someday and just like
Yeah,
having a
man.
great time.
Yeah. And having that discussion throughout the year, because it's a yearly discussion. It's a throughout the year discussion of what your
Sure,
kid wants to be. And you can check
absolutely.
in whenever you want. If you're like having a dull moment with your kid and you want to connect and you're like, what the fuck am I going to talk to my kid about right now? Ask them what they want to be for Halloween. It'll start a whole conversation because you're then ask
uh,
them why. And dude, I'm telling you, you'll have a whole afternoon. And it's a good icebreaker for your kids. And it's because it's something they should be able to enjoy.
sure.
So, uh, to cut back to the movie, we were saying that
Hmm.
Lori just got back into her house. That's when she heard those kids screaming. So
Oh my God.
we come to this classic scene where Lori walks into her bedroom, and I wanted to point out, like, this room right here, ever since I was a kid, has looked like one of the most comfortable rooms I've ever seen in my life. The
Oh
way the
really?
like the Lori's bedroom, like the way that
Hmm.
the wind is blowing the curtains in the room, the lighting, you can hear like the fall leaves outside. I want to take a fucking nap in this room.
It's a vibe.
Yeah, man. So we get in
She
there. Go ahead.
she looks out the window
Yeah.
and there's a fucking shape in the laundry looking up into the window at her. And I'm just like, no, that was so scary. Like, I love the atmosphere and the foreboding of this movie. He is there. You are not going to shake him. He has found you. You are now his target. You
Yep.
you have to figure
Zeroed
something out,
in.
bud.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God.
the way the next, like after this though, right as she's noticing him, the
Hmm.
fucking windows slam shut, like it falls
Oh yeah.
closed. And that makes her like fall, like jump back. It startles her, and she looks down at the window that closed. And when she looks back up, Mikey's
He's gone.
gone. He's
It's
just
so
fucking, and
creepy.
he did that little fucking Scooby Doo scamper again, where he's like,
It's like Velma's legs in a pup named Scooby Doo.
yeah, where they just spin around in circles and shit. The shape is now gone. He has shaped his shapiness out of the shaping shape of the shape of
Uh,
the
yeah,
cell of the
yeah.
film.
How you all right? You good?
Yeah, yeah. Just shapes, bro.
Shape,
It's like
shape's gonna
Sesame
shape.
Street over here, bro. So many shapes.
So many shapes. I got a fucking rhombus shape. You know, I got a fucking parallelogram shape over here.
Oh,
You know, I got a
fucking hell,
fucking.
dude. You
I
know
have
what I
four
got?
different kind of fucking triangles, Donovan. I got an isosceles over here. I got an
Fucking
equilateral over here.
isosceles.
Fucking acute fucking triangle over here. Come on,
Hey, who you
come
calling
on.
cute, brother?
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm talking at you. I'm talking
I
at
got a
you. Look at me. I'm
I
talking at you.
I got a fucking Pentagon, brother. I went to college.
Oh my god. Oh my god. A panic. I got a Pentagon because I went to college. It makes no sense. But you'll get it if you
No,
get.
I
If you know, you know.
cause
If you don't, you don't.
cause
What are you
I
gonna say?
works there now. That's what I'm saying.
Oh. I thought you were talking about a pentagram. That's a
Oh
different
no,
thing.
Jesus Christ, I ain't no Satanist.
I was the fucker. I was just in it for the sex stuff. You know, Anton LaVey. Anton LaVey. I'm just over here
Yeah,
trying to,
something
get it
about
in.
Crowley and his butt. The phone rings and some asshole is eating popcorn in the receiver. I almost
That's so
muted my fucking
stupid.
TV.
And Lori is like terrified. Like she is freaked out because there's a creeper in her yard.
Yeah,
It's
right.
not her yard, it's her neighbor's yard, but still, there's a creeper in the yard, and all she hears is this crunching, and she's
Yep.
like freaked out. She hangs the phone up,
And then
and
they
then
call back.
it's whichever it's Annie.
It was the
And
orphan.
she's like, oh, why didn't you hang on? I was chewing. They're like,
Yeah,
do
she's
not call somebody and then put the food in your mouth. There are
right.
an order you need to do. Maybe Lori wouldn't have a total heart attack right now if you had just waited to eat your popcorn.
She was a fucking monster anyway. Who would either she called and then shoved a handful in her mouth, or she was mid chew and called. Who does either of those things?
Bastard.
Like you said, there's an order to things, or there's chaos.
There's
And we
an order
find
to
out that
things of chaos.
we find out in that moment that she's gonna be picking up Lori to take her to visit and babysit Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lori lays down and she tries to calm herself. What's the next part? So we're back outside, and the garage doors look like the siding on the house, which confused the fuck out of me. I know
And
that's really weird, but I had to point that out.
sorry, repeat that. I couldn't hear you.
I said that the garage doors of Lori's house are the same like material as the other siding of the house, so they don't really look like garage doors,
Oh, that
and
would be freaky.
that weirded me out. So I had to point that
Yeah,
out.
that is weird. Who does that?
I've never noticed that before.
I think
Uh,
Lori's dad's a shitty realtor because you would never. Maybe he is a great realtor, but he just couldn't sell that house because
so they
that's the
had to live
weirdest
there.
fucking feature. So they had to.
I said it made it look like a prison. I was like,
I'm
what
like,
the fuck?
I'm thinking to myself as Lori goes outside with this pumpkin. I'm like, if I saw somebody in my laundry looking in my window back at me, I would never leave my house. Fuck Tommy Doyle. Let that kid sit alone at home. I am not leaving my house. I am locking every window. I am fashioning
You
like
never lived in the
improvised
city, have you?
weapons. Yeah, I lived in Cleveland for a very long
Then
time.
how are you not surprised? Then you should know that sometimes you just be seeing people look in your windows.
Well, sure, yeah. Well, when we lived
See,
in
here
Cleveland,
comes the story.
we had our apartment was on an alley, and I worked nights at the time, so I would come home and just like collapse in the bed with my wife and the dogs. And people would just walk up and down the alley going home or whatever
Yeah,
all the time,
absolutely.
and you just hear them. One lady she worked with couldn't get a hold of her on the phone, and she got called into work. So she comes up to our bedroom window, just knocking on the window, and she's like, "Hey, I gotta go to work. Can you watch my kids today?" And like
Oh,
we're like
damn.
laying in bed together with these dogs, like, and she's like looking in the window. I'm like, "What the fuck?" And
Oh my God.
I know we haven't known each other very long, but I feel I need to share. Your boy doesn't cover up when it's bedtime, baby.
Hey, I
You
feel
got to
you,
be
man.
all natural. Everything needs to
Yeah,
breathe,
man. I feel
brother.
you. I feel that.
And this woman is at my window knocking with two small children. And I'm like, you're gonna get me on a
She
list.
came in through the window.
We're like, yeah. And then there was this one guy that lived above us. His friend would come to talk to him, but he didn't have a phone. So he would stand outside our window and scream up, "Hey Dexter!
Oh my
Hey
God.
Dexter!" And I'm like,
Did you kill that
it's
guy? You killed that child molester yet, Dexter? Hey,
Dexter.
they harbor butcher. Did you kill him?
I
There's,
got that
there's
75
no.
yards of plastic you need, Dexter.
Hey, you
And
need some more slides to hide in your air conditioner, Dexter?
I'm just like, this dude would be out there at 10:30 at night. Dexter.
That's
Oh,
so
fuck
fucking
you,
great, dude.
dude.
The main memory I have of someone looking through my window as a child or anything like that was when I was little. Well, there were some other ones that happened in the city, but we don't have to talk about those ones. There was one where I was walking downstairs to get cereal, and there was a dude who was not of a sober mind climbing through the window, and I
What?
just made eye contact with him, and then he like
Oh my
slowly
God.
backed out and was like, "Ugh." I was like, what the
Oh
fuck?
my God.
I screamed for my dad. The guy was gone. It was a good time, man.
Oh my goodness.
Turned out it was our neighbor's son. It might have been an accident.
Uh,
Anyway,
and you may ask yourself, this is not my beautiful house.
this is not my weirded out child. So now we got Lori walking down the street carrying a pumpkin. It's that classic shot you were
Mhm.
just referencing. She sits on the wall next to the stairs and waits for Annie to come and pick her up. There's this little fun fact if you ever go to where this movie was filmed, the people who now own this home, they sit a pumpkin next to this stoop. So if you ever
Oh,
come there,
nice.
you can sit there and take a picture like Lori did here. It's
Oh,
pretty
cool.
fucking cool.
Well,
Um,
there was a moment when I thought Michael was behind her on that porch.
he's just chilling. What,
Yeah, well, there was something on the porch or like the shapes in the porch behind her. It seriously looked like there was someone standing there for a second.
Oh, standing. I thought you meant like he's
Yeah,
just sitting on a rocking chair. It's just
just gives her a slow nod. So,
like he's just sitting outside a Cracker Barrel.
and I don't know if Lori like knew that Tommy's pumpkin got smashed or if she just brought him a new one, but
Oh,
I
I didn't even
like to
think
think
about
that
that.
she knew and she was doing him a solid by bringing him a brand new pumpkin.
That's
which
really
I think
sweet.
would be really sweet. But
Yeah.
I think I'm like, she's such a peach. I love her because she's
Yeah, she's
just,
awesome.
just she's great, and it's Jamie Lee Curtis, so you can't be mad at Jamie Lee Curtis.
Double points. Because
Hmm.
there is a point, there was one of them referenced the pumpkin, and she said she's carving pumpkins with Tommy. So it's,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, so then she's watching these kids go trick or treating because she's a sweet babysitter. And then Annie pulls up to get her. And as soon as she gets in the car, what does Annie pull out? A fucking joint. A sinner.
And they blaze
OMG.
up,
And
baby.
who's her dad? Who's her dad? The sheriff. And this is during the 70s, so like weed is like super frowned upon. And so
Hmm.
she's white and her dad's a sheriff. No worries for Annie. Annie can do whatever the fuck she wants, man.
Oh my God. And they're listening to doo-wop music in the car. Like it's this
Typical
like
white people
50.
bullshit.
I'm thinking to myself, like, nothing says getting, high as fuck like Mr.
Okay,
Sandman,
look, you know
bring
what,
me a
Zach? I gotta
dream.
tell you a little story about before we recorded.
Oh dear God.
I
I want
may
to
have
smoke
been
the
bopping
devil's
around the
lettuce. And
garage. Yeah, I may have been bopping around the garage to Buddy Holly before we recorded.
oh my God.
But now, Loomis is now at a cemetery. That's what we're seeing now.
Hmm.
And the groundskeeper is taking him to this gravesite of this girl that was murdered at the beginning of the movie, Judith Myers. The man's telling some horrible story, and Loomis realizes that they don't know where they are. And he's like, "Can you get to the point? Where are we headed?"
There's the guy is gleefully telling the story of a person who took a hacksaw to like his entire family. You know,
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, it happens all the time. And Sam Loomis is like, I'm literally trying to save lives right now.
yeah. I think
Like,
the guy
stop
was
this
just
monster. The guy's like, oh, I want to talk about moitas. I love moitas.
right.
And
He's like the
why?
first like true crime podcast fan.
Oh, there you go. I love hearing about
I'm
when
a
people get their limbs cut off with a hacksaw. Oh
I'm a
yeah.
murderino.
It's never a mannequin, fam. I joined the Crime Stoppers.
He's just
Um,
happy to have a friend. But he just
yeah,
like
he
he realizes how fast that Loomis doesn't want to talk about it though, because he's like, "Oh, it's right over here."
and why is Dr. Loomis going to see Judith Meyer's grave?
Because
This is not. I don't understand.
so he's like a serial killer profiler, you know what I mean? So he just like, and
Sure.
he's also like his therapist, psychiatrist, all that shit. So I think that he's like going about like the profile of this type of murderer, where he's like they
Hmm.
usually go back to like the scene of the crime kind of thing, and like go to like a ritualistic visiting of like the victim, or like that kind of thing.
Okay,
He's
that makes
assuming he's
sense.
gonna go visit that, and he was
I don't
right.
know anything about true crime, so I don't know if this is a real
Yeah.
thing or whatever.
So there's like a part of like serial killer and like murderer profiles where some will do that. They'll go visit like the buried victim and stuff to like just be a fucking weirdo and be like, I fucking killed this person. It's just weird.
Yeah,
Like,
is it weird or is it just being sick? You know what I mean? Like some of these people are just very, very ill. They don't have resources or it's
well,
so
as a person who is mentally ill, I can say that I'm weird sometimes.
yeah, sure, sure.
Why not a
And
bit of both? Why can't you have the chocolate and your peanut butter and and a little bit of a weirdo psychotic cup, you know?
yeah, I'm a weirdo and I'm starting to have some problems. They could use a hug.
It's
And
just
I need a lot
it's
of therapy.
the next
But I
time when I'm
like to
talking to my therapist and I'm like, I'm a peanut butter cup.
I, I like to talk to my therapist, and then later I might put a peanut butter on a Q-tip and rub it on the inside of my toes. It's just like I do. I do. I just do it. It's not weird. It is weird, but
But it's
I
not
like
really
peanut
weird
butter
because
right between my toes.
I have problems, so it's not weird.
But when they get to Judith Myers' grave, they find that the whole ass gravestone is just missing out the ground. It's gone.
The
Like
thing that I
there's
love too, the thing that I love too, though, is they kind of buried the lead that they were looking for Judith's grave. They don't really show you what Loomis is doing, why he's at a graveyard, and then they get to the gravestone and it was like, oh, it was supposed to be Judith's grave, and you're like, oh, so that might be another reason too why you're like, why the fuck are they here? Because they don't really tell you why they're there until the very end of that scene.
and the dirt is not disturbed. There's no signs of like him having to
You're right.
wiggle this thing. It's like literally just somebody
Like,
he clicked it and dragged it out of the ground.
right. There's like a
And,
strip of lighter dirt.
and no one saw this man carrying this multiple 100 pound piece of marble out of this grave. Like there's no drag marks anywhere. It's just
From like a
we see that
dolly jack.
Michael, yeah, Michael is apparently superhumanly strong. We see later,
Yeah,
but like, oh, we're gonna talk about the gravestone later because that cracked me the fuck up.
I know,
But we'll
right?
t- and but like no one. I mean, sure, a graveyard's a lonely place, but nobody saw a guy.
Right. Are just dragging it, just like.
Yeah,
Can you imagine the noises he made under the mask?
he's like he has to pick it up and get in such a situation and then scuttle as fast as he can,
Or he
then
rolled
set
it.
it down.
He rolled it.
Hey, Mike. Hey, guys.
My favorite thing at the end of it though is that like right when Loomis says as he noticed the gravestone's gone, he says, "It looks like he came home." And it's like, ooh.
That's the
Loomis is
night that
nothing
he
but
came
like
home.
Loomis is nothing but like a fucking like a quote dropper in this movie. Everything he says is I couldn't stop a 5-year-old. Everything's just so good.
He had to drop that trailer line, you know?
Back right, back with Lori and Annie, and they're heading to babysit, and this car comes up behind them, and they can't hold their smoke because they're coughing like a bunch of amateurs.
And now I would like to note that on the radio, Don't Fear the Reaper is playing. So,
Hell
like,
yeah, it is.
okay, that's a little better.
It's
You
easier to
know,
get the rights for 50s music, Zach.
maybe don't fear the reaper. And they're
Yeah,
just
right.
blazing.
Hell yeah,
And
brother. But
the
the what's
atmosphere of him being always there. Like the creep wagon is behind them.
yep,
Like he has chosen you. You are going to like it's so scary that he's
he's
so
hunting you.
insistent, so fixated on her. It's
Yep.
really alarming.
That's the biggest thing I love about the Halloween movies is they never let up on that aspect of it is you just always have to watch the background because Michael is always praying. He's always in the back just watching. And I love that. It's so cool and creepy. Um so Annie and Lori pull up to a situation that's going on because they hear alarm bells going off in a store.
Mhm.
And they pull up and Annie's dad is outside the store that's been robbed for some reason. And her dad is the worst cop in existence because how the fuck does he not smell the weed in that car?
Right. Oh, he's not just the worst cop in existence because he didn't smell the weed. He's also the worst cop in existence because he just got off the phone with a man who told him that a violent killer whose past involves knives and masks is standing outside a hardware store in which he also shares a police investigation with his civilian daughter, saying, "Oh, the hardware store got broken into. Just a couple masks and knives missing. No big deal." And, buddy, sir,
Uh,
sir, sir. What's going on there, bud? What is Haddonfield? Is Haddonfield okay? Like,
Haddonfield's just
hey,
so used to not having someone die or be murdered that they just leave murders of instruments of murder out. You know what I mean? The funny thing about that though is I love that you're pointing that out because I got my wife to watch this with me for the first time for her a few years ago. And in this scene, she started cracking up at that and said the same fucking thing. She's like, that is literally just things a murderer would steal. Why is he
right.
not concerned?
And he did, we have confirmed that he was the person that Dr. Loomis was talking to on the phone. Like,
Yeah, and what was he
he
like every
spoke to him
time?
directly.
Yeah, and every time Loomis talks to him throughout the movie, he's so dismissive. He's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
There is a really, really cool bit here, though, because, like, they do a really, really good job of making sure there's a awareness of time and actual moving in and out of
Yeah,
things because as the girls pull up to Annie's dad, Michael drives past in his car.
yeah,
And then as Michael's driving away, Dr. Loomis comes up.
yep.
And then the girls drive away, and Dr. Loomis comes in after Sheriff Brackett had talked to the girls. So it's this like there's some movies, far lesser movies, where if something doesn't happen in frame, it doesn't happen at all. And
Yes.
like at least this movie gives you that sense of it's happening organically and in the world as it's going on. Because the girls
Yeah.
drive away and Dr. Loomis is already stepping onto the curb. It's a
Yes.
very,
Yep.
very dynamic, and I really, really enjoyed that bit.
I literally wrote not word for word the same, but the notes that you just said is what I wrote as well. Because the way that Michael happens to come back into frame again as Loomis walks into frame is
Mm-hmm,
is such a fucking cool little like tit for tat moment where it's just like he's hunting them, he's hunting him, he knows he's
mm-hmm,
hunting him, he's trying to sneak past him to get back to the girls. It's so fucking
mm-hmm,
cool and just creepy and ominous. But then when you think about it from like you're saying, other movies don't pull off stuff like that. Let's think about that from a production standpoint.
oh my
The
God.
way that you had to have be so on point to get everything in
Mm-hmm,
frame is so fucking cool. A lot of movies, like you said, don't do that nowadays, where it's just like everything either happens off screen or like it's so fluid, man. Like, you know what I mean? Everyone had to be on fucking 10 to get that to work
mm-hmm.
on radios and stuff. Oh, man.
And it would have been a lot, probably pretty excruciating to actually get a good solid take out of it. Because
That's
you
what
have
I'm
to have the
saying. Yeah.
cars down, you have to have Dr. Loomis stepping on the curb at the right time, you have to have the
Yep.
girls leaving, you have to have everything timed out, and it's
Hitting your
one of the
marks on the
things.
right moments. And this is an independent film, so you don't have a lot of
Yep,
film to shoot this on.
right. And one of the things that like me and Stevie talk about on the Escapist Room podcast is like a lot of times people don't consider how hard a job acting actually is,
Yeah.
because all the people in that scene had to constantly keep in their heads where they need to be, what is happening behind and in front of them at the same time. Like it you don't just show up, look pretty, and then go home. Like you
Right.
have to do a lot and use a lot of skills
A
to
lot
get
of
it done.
emotions. Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. And that could be anyone with a mental illness or just any human being can tell you that being emotional is fucking draining. So having to tap in and
Yeah,
out of that and stuff, it's a
sure.
lot. Um,
Speaking of draining emotions, your man's Dr. Loomis is really working that forehead vein.
oh hell yeah, brother. And his fucking vocal cords. By the fucking
Yeah,
sixth one of these, he's like this.
Donald Pleasance is like pushing all of the blood through his head, and he's just like, "I gotta stop the killer." It's very intense.
His performance as Donald Pleasance is I mean as Donald Pleasance his performance as Dr.
Donald
Loomis
Pleasance in the Donald Pleasance story.
is one of my favorite things ever. But him in The Great Escape. Have you seen The Great Escape?
Hmm.
Him
I
is
didn't
that
know Donald
blind.
Pleasance was in The Great Escape.
He's the blind prisoner that's with I think Robert Wagner.
Oh,
Yeah, the one that gets blinded, and he has
yeah.
to help him get out of there. Him in that movie is so fucking good. I just wanted to point that out. If you've never seen The Great Escape, watch that fucking movie.
Donald
Um,
Pleasance as Donald Pleasance in the Donald Pleasance story,
I was
featuring
Dr. Loomis.
I
I
was
was
Dr.
hunting.
Loomis 5 times.
I was trying to kill a little boy.
Oh my God.
So now they're in the car again and Lori brings up dance school. Oh no, blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah. Lori brings up the dance at
Dance school.
school. Amy mocks her for like even talking about it and she gets immediately embarrassed. The sunset giving this natural lens flare while the camera
Oh,
films their conversation from the back seat
beautiful
is
stuff.
so fucking gorgeous.
Beautiful stuff.
I love it so much. This is the kind of shit that J.J. Abrams is trying to mimic when he uses that fake lens flare.
And it looks completely artificial.
Yep. The car
Garbage.
from I'm not trying to sit on shit on J.J. Abrams, by the way. Like, I still like some of his stuff. I don't want to sit here and act like I'm being like some kind of fucking film school elitist.
Right.
Super 8 was a dope movie. Uh,
Dude, I was just gonna say Super 8's rad as hell.
Yeah. The car from the hospital is following them again, and he
Hmm.
just drives right by and he sees where Lori's getting dropped off. And we see that the other house where Andy going is right across the street. So
Hmm.
they're going to be right next to each other. The shape walks up to the house and stands under a tree, completely in view. This shot made me laugh out loud because if anyone was aware at all, like in reality, they would have been like, "Oh, hi." Why
Right.
are you
Or like
just
called
you
the cops
okay?
because there's a giant masked man standing outside where the kids
Yeah,
are trick or
let's
treating.
let's not forget he's like 6'5" or supposed to be around that. He's supposed to be a giant big man.
Mhm.
So yeah, that would be alarming just seeing him stand under the tree.
And,
And it's like he becomes aware of that though, because he kind of steps to the side and gets behind the tree after a second.
and and then I do have in my notes that Michael Myers as a villain is iconic for a reason. Like Nick
Yeah,
Castle, the guy who's playing him in this movie,
yeah,
is so his movements are so stiff. I believe they
yes,
said I read somewhere that he modeled his performance after Frankenstein, if I'm
yeah,
not mistaken.
yes, he did.
And it's just he's so stiff and so boxy, but so imposing at the same time. There's a reason that this stuck so hard in people's minds because just the threat of him, that constant ominous threat, is just.
And when
I'm
you
gonna need to get a Michael Myers action figure. I'm
Oh
not gonna
hell
lie.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
He's my
dude.
favorite. He's This is my favorite horror movie for what you're describing exactly. Him as the villain is what makes this movie work so well. And that firmness, that stiffness, it's almost like when he's moving his body, it's like his muscles are that tense where he's like ready to just fucking just snap. That's the
Mm-hmm.
stiffness. It's not just like a I'm weak and I have to move slow. It's like a no, I'm fucking just ready to go. And
Oh
it's
my god.
terrifying. Um, Now we're with Sheriff and the Loomis, and they're pulling up to the old Myers house. No one's lived here since the 60s, says the sheriff. And inside they find a
It's
ma
1978. That's what, 12 years, 15 years, dude.
Hey,
That's not a long time.
no, it
The
looks
six
like it's been 40 or plus years.
It looks like it's been abandoned for decades. Did they not have paint in 1963? Like, no, they did have paint. It was full of lead and it killed a bunch of babies or whatever. But still, like this house, there's no way it would have looked like this much of a wreck if only being closed for 15 years. I've seen houses that have been closed for decades and they don't look that bad.
The only thing I can think of for why it would look so shitty is it became like such a house of legend for what it was that people fucked with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like teenagers were like threw rocks through windows and
Sure.
like fucked with it because like it's the scary Myers house. But that's the only reason. But I don't think it would be that fucked up either. It was decrepit. It looked like the house on Niebolt Street from It.
And we
um.
see here that Michael is definitively not only because he's a killer, he's a fucking villain, dude.
Oh
Because
yeah.
he killed and ate someone's dog.
This
Like, yeah,
yes.
you're the worst. Kill all
This
the
ex
babysitters you want. You mess with somebody's dog.
you
We got
crossed the
problems.
line.
Yeah.
This exchange between the Loomis and the sheriff is my favorite though. Because when they walk in and see the dog carcass, it's still warm. And then
Ooh.
Loomis goes, he got hungry. And the sheriff goes, or a skunk. A man wouldn't do that. This isn't a man.
And
I
then he
also,
just like walks out of frame, right?
yeah, like the
This isn't
sheriff
a
looks at him
man.
like, what the fuck? And but also the sheriff thinking that maybe a skunk did what's happening? Did he think a
Yeah.
skunk did that to the dog or I don't
What?
understand.
You fucking what, mate?
They continue through the house, and a gutter hits the window, and Loomis pulls out a gun about to shoot that motherfucker.
And this man, looking like John Constantine, is out here. He's a psychologist, right? But he is strapped. He knew he needed that heat, and he is packing that heat because I have a pistol. Like, oh my God. Someone, I think
uh,
you get your license taken away if you're just pulling out guns all like that.
did the sheriff even mention him having that gun?
I don't think so. I think he just looks down at it and raises his eyebrows a little bit and just keeps it moving. Because I
You
don't
would
think he
think that he'd
says,
be like,
"What do you need that?"
you just almost shot a fucking window. You might be a little too antsy to have this weapon, sir.
You're
I,
too close to the situation.
so the sheriff, oh, okay, actually, yes, the sheriff does because I wrote it in my notes. I got
Mm.
distracted by what I was trying to do. So the sheriff basically calls him a bitch, where he's just like, all right, calm down there, antsy pants. Loomis gives this amazing monologue that I wanted to play really quick.
Mhm.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the deathless eyes.
Hell yeah,
Oh my
brother.
God,
I'll cut
it's
it
so
there.
good.
It's just keeps going, but it's over a minute. So, but that right there alone, he's Loomis is everything about this movie to me is perfect. The casting, the timing,
Mhm.
the length of it. There's no gore, not really. There's some, but not a lot.
Right.
I love this fucking movie. So yeah, I had to give him his props on that, his flowers, because it's so good. Um, so here we go. He says also that they should probably not tell anyone about what's going on to not cause a stir, and I feel like that's a bad call.
Your tax dollars at work, ladies and gentlemen. Like, you are the sheriff of the town. It is your responsibility to try to keep everybody safe, or at least diminish the hazard. Right? You have to tell people to lock their doors, arm themselves, or something. Like, put a message out on the
And
radio. Drive through the streets. Come on,
right, arm yourselves.
arm yourselves. Grab your torch and pitchfork.
He's the boogeyman, man. Uh, Lori now is babysitting Tommy and reading, and Annie calls, and the dog at the house is freaking outside at a shape.
The
Annie
shade.
ignores this fucking whole warning from the dog. The dog is basically like, "There's a guy right there," and Annie's like, "Shut the hell up." Annie is trying to set up Lori with this dude. Keeps talking about, "Hey, maybe you can go out with this guy," and then Lori's like,
Ben Trainer.
and Annie's like, "Actually, I like." Lori's like, "Actually, I like him," and then she's like, "Oh, well, maybe I'll tell him," and then she's like, "Don't do that! Don't do that, you slut!"
Oh my God. She doesn't call her that.
I know.
Lori's
I'm
too
just
nice to use words like that. Don't talk shit about
Yeah, I'm
Lori like
sorry,
that. She's a
Lori. I
piece.
was just trying to say like they wrote it like typical like teenage like babysitter dialogue, like you bitch.
Typical way a 40-something-year-old man would write what he thinks a
Exactly.
teenage girl
That's
writes.
what I'm getting at, right? You fucking batch.
So like I that's what I was saying to Annie. Like, bud, I don't know if you've never lived with dogs. I don't know if you've ever worked with dogs. Like, uh, if a dog is barking at you, something is wrong. They
Yeah,
are communicating with you. That's what communication is for them. He's yelling at you, lady, we are all gonna die. It's like Indiana Jones in Temple of Doom. We are going to die. Like, this dog knows that something is wrong. Dogs
right.
can smell shapes from a mile away.
Ooh, shit.
And the dog's like, there's a shape, there's a shape, there's a shape, 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 there's a shape, there's a shape, there's a shape, shape, shape. And
And
she's
he's
just like,
low to the ground. He's not like doing it like a, well, he's like low and
right.
he's got his like he's like fuck,
Mm-hmm.
something's right there. So
But,
yeah, she's being stupid for that. This is
well,
my
I
one of my
mean, she
favorite.
is young. She might just not have that experience yet.
Well, also, yeah, who expects the guy to be standing outside waiting to murder you, I guess. Uh,
What what is Tommy Doyle's costume? What is he supposed to
I think
be?
he's an astronaut.
Okay, because he it doesn't even look like an astronaut costume. It looks like a leisure suit. Like, he's just gonna be hanging out on Apollo 13, just like sipping Mai Tais,
That's what I
just
think it's
fucking
supposed to be,
chilling.
like Neil Armstrong when he's already just in the moon, like the rover and shit. Um, but anyway, not the rover and shit. Like I know what I'm talking about.
The rover and shit.
This is one of my favorite moments in the whole movie, though. This is when Tommy walks up
Oh
to the
my God,
window and he
dude.
looks out there and he sees him, and he says
So
he sees a
scary.
man outside and he calls him the boogeyman. I fucking love that.
Because
Um,
earlier, Lonnie and all those pricks at school were
yeah,
picking on him, said, the boogeyman's gonna get you. The boogeyman's gonna get you.
yep,
And Tommy even asks Lori, like, who is the boogeyman? Is the boogeyman real?
yep,
And
and
he
then
looks out this window and sees Michael standing in the carport
yep,
of this house. And I'm just like,
that's the
just
fucking boogeyman.
terror went through my body. I was like, oh my God, I'm so
Yeah,
scared right now.
literal chills. And then like you think about it too, and it goes more to the point of like Michael just being the embodiment of evil and just being called the shape because he can take
Mm-hmm.
the shape of anyone's fear. Like he's just like, bam,
Sure.
I'll step in for what you're the most fucking scared of.
And when Tommy sees Michael in the driveway at Lindsay's house, doesn't that little shrill music sting happen?
This thing.
The ding. Yeah,
Yeah, which used to be my
it's so scary.
that used to be my text notification sound, and my wife made me change it because it scared the shit out of her. We'd be sitting there, and then my phone would just be like, um,
You're just like, no, 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 he's here, he's
he's
here.
here. uh, so now we're cut back to the interior of the house that Annie's inside, and the shape is right outside watching her, shaping it up, and
Like,
she spills. Huh? Go
can we
ahead.
talk about how weird these teenagers are?
What do you mean?
The, she gets a small amount of butter on herself and proceeds to completely disrobe.
Hey, no, she spills a bunch of soda on herself.
I thought she got butter. She says she got
No.
butter on herself. She butters herself.
What, from
I
like
don't know.
popcorn or something? I thought she
Yeah, I
spilled
think
soda.
so.
I thought she was spilling soda from a cup and the dog like bumped into her or something.
It doesn't
Maybe we have
matter.
different versions.
She's in someone else's home watching their child, and she completely takes off her
You
clothes.
don't do this?
No, no, I don't take off my clothes in my house. I have to be behind several closed doors where I
Only
know no
in my
shapes are going to
room.
get me.
And
And
when neighbors are outside my window.
these children just like have no respect for other people's property, apparently. And in the 70s, was it common to have your laundry room in an entirely different like
Maybe.
sub building? Like I've never seen that before in my life. Like she has to take her clothes
You can go to like a
out,
guest house.
yeah, to a little like outbuilding to do her laundry. Oh,
Well,
that's so scary.
while she's undressing, Michael is like watching her even more intently than he ever has, and his breathing intensifies because they do this thing where like they'll show his POV, his
Mm-hmm.
point of view, and he will
Really?
be
What was
yeah,
that again? I
his
didn't catch that. What
his
does that mean?
point of view, and
Oh God, all this time I never knew. Thank you so
and when
much.
they do, his breathing is super fucking heavy. It's just
Oh my
inside the
God,
mask. And at this
so
point, it's
scary.
like way worse. And I'm pretty sure at one point he goes, "Oh God."
No, that's so gross.
But anyway, he's just being a full-on fucking creep now. He's being a weirdo. Now, but it was he's just a murderer before, and now he's officially even more a creep, and it's gross. Um, the dog finds him outside and freaks the fuck out. And what does Michael
Yeah,
do? He takes the life of another dog.
bastard,
We hear
bastard.
him we hear him whimper aloud as if he's in pain.
Oh,
And Annie doesn't really care. She just goes like,
yeah.
"Hey, you all right? All
What you
right."
doing out there?
Mikey killed the dog, you guys, again.
Can I say that if I came home to find that my daughter was fine in bed, whatever, the babysitter was there, and what my dog was dead outside my house for some reason, I would lose my shit. That babysitter's life would be ruined. You know, like I would figure out how to sue your ass somehow. Like, what are you doing? What happened to my dog?
Oh
But it's
my
in the
God,
70s. Like,
yeah.
did people care about animals in the 70s?
Well,
No.
well, the babysitter won't be around to be asked in a little while anyway,
Yeah.
because she's gonna be also murdered like the dog. Spoiler alert.
Murdered. He lays in the bed. Murdered.
Uh, now we cut to a
Devastating.
scare. We're cut to a scare. We got to a scary movie they're watching at Tommy's house, and it's the original version of The Thing. Nicely
Hmm.
done, John Carpenter. This was actually made 5 years before his version of the remake.
Have
So
you
that
ever
was
seen the
pretty cool.
original thing from another world?
A long, long time ago, I watched it with my grandfather. I didn't even
It's
realize it was
very
the same movie.
well, because it's
Kind
technically
of
not,
not. Yeah.
but uh it's great. It's wonderful 50s B movie cheese. It's great. But
Wonderfulness. Yeah.
the story, and maybe we would talk about this in a thing podcast, but story called Who Goes There, that the thing from another world and John Carpenter's The Thing are based on, is a terrific, terrific story that later
Really.
got expanded into what was called Frozen Hell. And it's all that tension of, just like in John Carpenter's The Thing, of nobody knowing that's why the title of it was "Who Goes There?" because nobody knows who the actual alien is. It can be anyone, be anything at any time. It's very, very scary. It's
Who
slow
goes
and
there?
atmospheric, and
That sounds
yeah,
really
it's
dope.
great. I have it in a. They came from the Pulps collection. That's like a bunch of
Pulp
short
stories.
stories that were adapted into movies later in the 50s.
Oh, that sounds really cool. Oh shit,
They,
man, that sounds dope.
I can't remember was Robert W. Chambers maybe.
I'm gonna have
I
to look
can't
that
remember.
up.
I'd have to look it up. But
Yeah, let me know for sure. That sounds really cool. It sounds like something I would definitely be interested in.
but
So we come after they're watching this movie, and
mhm.
Tommy says the boogeyman is coming. He's outside, and Lori basically just says, "Shut the fuck up, kid." And it's kind of the meanest that we've ever seen Lori, but she's kind of pissed off because Annie just told her that, like, I'm gonna tell that boy you like that you fucking like him. So
Which is like
Lori's stressing a bit.
this is like third grade shit.
That's
I
what I'm
mean, I don't
talking
know.
about. The way that they wrote their dialogue is really funny sometimes.
I'm not a
Um,
teenage girl, but like I don't think people would like be like that to each other. I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
know,
I can't
man.
talk shit.
Right. Now we're with Annie. The funniest thing that is if we get as a response to this, like a lot of people like that related to the way they talk, like a lot of females would be like, "Oh, that's not true. That's how we talk." I'm like, my bad. Sorry, guys.
Hmm? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I can tell you.
Right. Now we're
I
back
would
with
never
it.
assume.
Right. Now we're back with Annie, who's trying to wash her clothes in a dark ass laundry room. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Also important to note, Annie is wearing a large man's dress shirt.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have her own clothes, so like that had to probably be Lindsay's dad's shirt.
True. Yeah, I guess so.
So Annie again making very, very poor decisions because
Just taking people's clothes.
well, not even taking people's clothes. The implications, like, what if the shirt she gets a little makeup on the shirt, or like her smell sticks to the shirt a little too long? You know what I mean? Like she could ruin Lindsay's entire family just like based on
Holy
there's a
shit.
crumpled up shirt with a girl smell on it.
That's
And are you
really
cheating
fucking
on
funny.
me?
Right. Oh my God. That's hilarious.
But
Um,
she's oh, the tension in the scene. Oh, go
it's
ahead.
really
Sorry.
good. It's so dark in there, and it's pretty clear immediately that somebody's out there fucking with her because like a door gets
Mm-hmm.
blocked, the light's not working as we find out. That's why it's so dark in there. And now she's locked outside in the laundry room. She can't get out of the laundry room, and she's yelling for the kid she's watching for to come help her.
Like what kind of slapstick silliness is this laundry room that you get like locked in? Like, what are you doing?
Well,
I just
the fucking funniest part about it is she decides to try to climb out of it. So
she
she's
gets
like
stuck in the
cartoon
window.
half stuck out, half stuck in kind of thing. It was fucking ridiculous.
It was ridiculous because you could have just fully climbed out the window. I don't know.
I wrote something here, but I don't know what it says because I think I was trying to be funny. Then it doesn't make sense.
Did you notice that on the TV when Lindsay is inside watching the thing from another world, they say we have to figure out the shape of this thing as they're looking at the alien spacecraft underneath the ice.
Wait, say that one more time.
She's watching the thing from another world on TV, and the
Uh-huh.
guys are trying to figure out what the alien spaceship is underneath the ice in the thing from another world. And they say, we have to figure out what the shape is.
Oh shit, really?
We
I
have to
didn't
find
realize
its
that.
shape.
That's really
Yeah,
fucking cool.
pretty
Um,
cool.
when all this is going on in the background, you can see Michael just fucking creeping it up,
Ugh,
watching the whole situation. Uh,
shaping.
Lindsay runs out there. That's the girl she's watching, and ends up
Hmm.
saving her, gets her stuck out of the window. Now we cut back inside, and Annie is now on the phone with Paul, and they're
Hmm.
being fucking sinners, saying gross stuff about putting things in places and stuff. It's
Oh God,
nasty. And he's in the
very
background
rude.
again. He's
Oh
right
my God, that
there.
was so scary.
I scared you?
No, not you. Like the
Oh.
movie. It was so scary. And then he's gone, like immediately.
Yeah, he
It
did
was
a little like he did a little
poof. What do you need?
scamper.
Poof. What do you need?
Oof, what do you need? So here's the new plan. Annie's gonna drop off Lindsay with Lori so she can do things with Paul. You know, sinner things with Paul.
Sinner.
The shape
Damn it.
watches and he needs an inhaler.
Oh my God. Because he's he's like full on James Earl Jones at this point, like, oh my
It's
God.
really bad, yeah. And I think that it's like, yeah, he just needs a fucking inhaler. Uh,
So like these kids are bad, right? Like I don't think I would agree to, yeah, just bring your babysit kid over to the house I'm babysitting at, and we'll just be fine. They'll just hang out and you guys can go bang or do whatever you want to. No, no,
See, I
no way.
now this right here, this part, my cousin Nikki, I'll say her name. I don't give a shit.
Hmm.
She used to babysit me all the time, and she was around like 16, 17, and I
Hmm.
was around Tommy's age, and her friends used to do shit like this.
Oh my God.
Where they would be like, "All right, you can drop your friend off over here, and you guys can like hang out for a little while." That kind of shit. Yeah, they did that.
I don't
So
know, man. That's so
this one I
wild to
feel is
me.
like this one's based on reality.
Maybe. They're
Um,
just, isn't Lori supposed to be the most responsible, the bestest of all of them?
I feel
Like
like
she should be like,
I feel like
no.
doesn't it get kind of sprung on her though too? Like Annie
Mhm.
shows up there and she's like,
Oh
"Here, just
yeah.
food." Oh yeah, because that's right. Because she makes the deal with her where she's like, "Maybe I won't talk to Paul if you do this or
Hmm.
whoever the fuck you guys." What was his name? Ben Kramer, right?
Ben Tramer.
Ben Tramer. Yeah, Ben.
Hmm. I
So
noted the name because I thought it was so strange they mentioned it
like
so
9 times.
specifically,
Yeah.
and he never showed up in the movie at all.
Yeah, like
Um,
it shows out like Michael Myers is Ben Tramer. Da da da.
I really, really like you. I just didn't know how to say, so I stabbed all these other people. Will you go to prom with me?
You're right. I may have murdered my sister.
I did a promposal in the eviscerated guts of your best friend.
It's okay.
Will you say yes?
Don't there's no option. I don't know if you noticed.
You're gonna
Um
die.
Annie goes back to Lindsay's house and she's trying to
Hmm.
figure out how to pick up Paul, but the car is locked. So she goes into the garage and
No,
wait, the car's now unlocked and she gets into it without an issue.
no,
That's that's weird. She doesn't notice that though, but what she does notice is now there's some kind of weird condensation on the windows within.
no.
So it's almost like someone's breathing in the car and then the
Breathing
shape.
very, very heavily
So how would
for a
she not
long period of time.
how would she not hear him? That's what I want to know.
Like, bro, are you okay? Get an inhaler.
The shape
Oh,
strikes and strangles her from the back seat. There's
God.
silence, there's no score, which makes this so stark and disturbing. And I fucking thought this was so it was such a like just real and very striking scene. The fact that they
Hmm.
decide to not put any sound effects or anything, you just hear her hitting the window, you hear her struggling, you hear him
And
breathing,
smacking the horn.
you hear his breathing get heavier too. Like he gets like
Hmm.
it's very creepy how intense he gets into it. It's done so well. She
And
dies.
she's hitting the horn. She's
Yep.
hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And you notice as she's hitting the horn over and over, the intervals of the honking of the horn get more sporadic because she's dying and she's just basically beating at whatever she can
Yeah,
get at.
freaking out. Yeah,
It's
yeah. And
But
the
nobody in this neighborhood, fuck Haddonfield, Illinois, by the way, because A, they're a bunch of assholes, as we'll see later. But B, you don't hear a bunch of horn honking
like that
and
long
think,
too.
okay, should I go check on my neighbor? Right. For a long period of time. And it's a lot. Like, you're not even going to poke your head out the window? No, because you're a bunch of pricks. And we'll see you later.
And she
Oh,
fucking falls on the horn when she dies too, because there's even
mm-hmm,
like the longer one. But when she actually like dies, like when she finally hits that like limp, like the sting comes in again, where it's like,
uh,
and I thought that was so cool because like it was super striking because there was no music. When they drop
absolutely.
that, it makes it so much more disturbing and more like, oh fuck, it's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
We cut again to Tommy looking outside the window, and he sees the boogeyman once more. But Lori again does not
He sees
fucking
the
believe him.
boogeyman carrying Annie's dead
That's
body.
what it is. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
scary
Lori,
as hell.
yeah, and Lori doesn't believe him. Now let's think about that from Tommy's point of view again. He thinks that this is a legitimate boogeyman carrying a
Mm-hmm.
fucking limp person. That's so scary. Uh,
Did you notice what movie they were watching when Tommy and Lindsay were
oh, I
watching
thought
movies
I just
together?
assumed it was still the thing.
Oh no, it was the all-time classic Forbidden Planet.
Oh, with Leslie Nielsen?
Hmm.
Hell
I
yeah,
love that
buddy.
movie. So
Uh,
great. Just
Loomis is,
I don't. You always
huh?
got to throw a Forbidden Planet. You always got to give big ups to Robbie the Robot. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah, buddy. I also I love all the little fucking little Easter eggs they throw in there too. So pointing
Yeah.
that shit out's fun. Loomis is waiting outside the Meyer house now because I think he's just expecting Michael to show up back there because it's
Yeah.
Halloween and revisiting places again.
And so earlier he talks to the sheriff. The sheriff says, I have to go. I will be back in an hour. So if you think about it, this weird man, bald man in a trench coat, is just standing in these bushes for an hour, just looking back and forth down the street,
Yes.
twiddling his thumbs as
Oh my
children are
God.
walking past doing trick or treating. It's
Well,
like, oh, what a creep.
well, that what you just said is so hilarious because it leads to one of my favorite moments in the movie as far as comedic bits, because it
Yeah.
shows the three kids that were bullying Tommy earlier show up at the Myers house and they're daring each other to go knock on the door, and you don't see it, but Loomis is hiding in the bushes and notices them, so he decides to scare the shit out of these kids, and one of them's going up there, and then Loomis sticks his head out and he goes, "Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there."
And they're like, oh shit.
And they run away. But then the
Oh
sheriff
my God.
scares the shit out of Loomis back.
Could you imagine if Christopher Lee was doing that? Lonnie, get your ass out of there. And he'd be like, oh, he just
Lonnie,
hits himself and die. This giant
Lonnie.
6'5" man, the deepest voice ever.
Just slightly back crane trying to hide behind the bush but can't. Get
Get
your
your
ass
ass
away
out of
from
there.
there. But then the sheriff says to Dr. Loomis, I have the feeling you're way off on this. And then Loomis says, you have the wrong feeling. Fucking
Like he
classic.
is so committed.
Then he starts talking about he does another monologue about Michael Myers and he says this line, he was always looking at the wall, looking past the wall, seeing this date and waiting patiently. I fucking love
Hmm.
that line.
Very
Uh
cool.
the sheriff doesn't believe that Michael is back, but Loomis eventually ends up convincing him. Now we show PJ Souls' character
PJ Souls.
arrives at Lindsay's house with her boyfriend Bob.
Hmm.
And they make this
Fucking
really
Bob.
fucking weird comment that I had to
Oh
point out.
no, no, no,
No,
no.
I'm
Yeah,
pointing
don't.
this shit
Oh,
out. I'm pointing this out because it was odd. There been like Bob starts talking about Lindsay. Well, he does. Bob starts talking to PJ Soul's character, and he's like, "We go in the house, then we go upstairs, then I rip off your clothes, then I rip off Lindsay's clothes." And that was weird because Lindsay is a fucking child, and who would even say that as a
mm,
joke? And
no,
PJ
you
Soul's
don't.
character thinks it's funny for some reason. She's like, "Ha ha
Yeah.
ha, you're a weirdo," and I'm like, "Yeah, he is. What the
Are we
fuck, dude?"
trying? You want to make Bob a heel, maybe before Michael gets him,
That's what I was thinking,
because you don't
maybe,
want maybe because like you
possibly.
say some shit like that to me, your ass is never talking to me again, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
be watching your house,
you're out of the
motherfucker.
car.
Like,
You're out of the
yeah,
car. You're on the ground, buddy.
you're out of the relationship. You're
Yeah.
out of here. Get out of here. It
So
was really gross.
it was very gross. It caught me off guard watching it. I didn't remember that at all, and I was like, "What the fuck?" So now they're making out in the house. PJ Souls and Bob. And the shape is watching and he is into it.
Breathing hard, huffing and puffing, the fumes of that latex mask,
What
baby.
is what is this? Is this
Ooh.
asthma? I don't know. I don't know. Are you an asthmatic?
What the like?
He's just
Who
watching
goes
like a
in?
true cuck.
Like, okay, so I, having been a teenage boy myself, know the feeling that like you just want to do your business, right? You are very focused on one specific thing. But I don't know if I'd be cool being like I'm in somebody else's house. They could come home at any time. Let's get it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Like,
so weird. I mean, I
no,
guess there's like
no.
if you're into like the fear of being caught kind of thing, there's people that are into that
Maybe.
kind of maybe, but still it's still like ugh, gross.
Yeah, it's gross. And for all they know, there's a small child there.
Yeah,
You know what I
well,
mean?
yeah, right.
Ugh.
Well, I think that's why they're just making out at first, because we get into that in a second.
Mm,
I think they think Lindsay's in bed. Um, Back at Tommy's house, the jack-o'-lantern is done, and Lori sees her friends are at Lindsay's house. So they're at Lindsay's house, and they just watching TV. and Bob
Hmm.
looks like he's fucking 45. So there
Yeah,
was
Bob's an
a
old ass
he's
man.
old as shit. PJ Souls calls over at Tommy's house and sees what's going on, and Lori ends up telling them that they're home alone. She's got Lindsay, and Annie left to go get Paul.
Ugh,
So, you know what that means. We're gonna go fuck in Lindsay's parents' bed.
so nasty.
So, with beer cans and clothes littering the floor, we see old man Bob and what's her we see old man Bob and what's her face are boning. And
Linda,
Mickey,
Linda, she has a
I
name,
couldn't
sir.
remember her
It's
name.
Linda.
I remember everyone's name but PJ Soul's character because I just remember her as PJ
It's BJ Soul.
Souls.
But
We see that Mikey's in the shadow. In the shadows, his shadow's just stretching across the wall as he's watching them do it.
full on Nosferatu shadow stretch
Yep.
across the wall as they're going to town. I'm just like, oh my god! Somebody has to have their eyes open
No,
during
you
that
think I'm
part, right?
fucking joking? Movies like this 100% is why I'm mid-coitus. I will be monitoring the fucking room. Ain't nobody gonna get me with a machete in the back. um,
I've safely removed all of the spear gun ammunition from this house. No one is going to take me through the throat. There's no arrows. There's no
Nope.
machetes.
Nope.
No
Nothing with a
chainsaws.
pointy stick. No marshmallow sticks. So Bobby Boy climaxes like it's a big deal, and then he gets sent to get a beer for Linda because he was being a real fucking dick to her. He said something about it, like some weird thing about like the sex wasn't
No,
good.
no, he said like they both seemed to have enjoyed themselves, which could possibly have been false on Linda's part because, as
Yeah,
we know, but whatever. And he says, "I'd really like a beer." Like you're, hold on, son. Hold on,
that's
you
what it was.
teenage
Yeah.
child.
So then she's
First
like,
of
"You
all,
basically you get me a beer."
yeah, she's like, "You'd really like a beer, huh?" He's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Me too." And then he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay." But not only are these gross ass kids, keep in mind, these are high school children,
Yep.
ostensibly. Bob seemingly is, over 37. But like, they're not only having sex in someone else's house, presumably Lindsay's mom and dad's bed, they're also going to steal their beers. Like, who are you? How are you raised? Like, what level of depravity have you reached
Right. And they
to,
came there with beer too. So like
yeah,
they're just fucking getting hammered, man.
disgusting.
And they're smoking the fakest looking cigarettes I ever saw. So that was the other thing.
I'm just like, you deserve this. You deserve to be
What
shaped.
you're about to get shaped up, son, and you deserve it. So Bob's in the kitchen now and he's getting more of my dad's special juice when the back door opens up and he's just like, "Hey, who's that?" And as he shuts it, bam, there's Mikey. He's like, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" And he lifts Bob into the air with one hand, choking this bitch, showing just how strong he really is, lifting a
Hmm.
full-grown man up with one hand.
With one hand.
Then
And then
he's
nailing him to the wall with a
uh,
knife.
yep, just leaving him there
Awesome.
impaled. And as he's there, just blood dripping off his foot onto the floor, just running down his body, Mikey just stands there staring at him. And it's such an ominous shot of him just admiring his handiwork. It's so
Hmm.
creepy and
He,
just,
he does that signature Michael Myers head tilt.
yeah, where he's just like, I did that. And it's so weird and just done in the perfect way, where it's just creepy and scary and just, but it's beautifully shot.
Yeah, it was
Um,
so sudden and like, and this
and
is
it's
the only
quiet.
part. Yeah, this is the only part of the movie that I knew about. So like, I
Yeah,
had never seen this before, but this is kind of the iconic kill in the movie.
yeah,
Um, and of him, it's that and the thing that's about to happen just in a few
yes,
seconds. But like, just I had never seen it in context, and it's very, very well done. And you can
yeah,
talk a lot about horror movies being kind of grody and like, why would we want to watch people be murdered and whatever? But this is artistry, and art obviously is subjective, but like, this is beautiful. There's craft. There's
oh
filmmaking
yeah,
craft
man.
here. This isn't just a killing a meat bag for the sake of you know killing a meat bag. It's really, really well done, and I really appreciated this. Not watching a
Absolutely.
man be murdered, but
No,
the
it's
idea of the setup and the construction of this kill.
the story it tells, the character that it shows that Michael really is, and the
Hmm.
depravity to which he is, and it also shows like that he's still childlike in his mind with the way he's admiring what he did, and it's done in such a way, like you're saying, that it takes it seriously, and that's one of the reasons I
Yeah,
appreciate this movie, and it's my favorite horror movie, is because it takes itself so seriously. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, this can be done in an artistic way, and I love
sure,
that about this movie.
absolutely.
And why I always have a tremendous respect for John Carpenter, even though he's a butthead sometimes. So the next scene stands out in all of the Halloween movies and in all of horror movies in general.
Yep.
The bedroom door opens up and it looks like Bob is standing there under a sheet and wearing his glasses, kind of like a ghost. We find out soon
There's
enough,
a
though.
shape under that sheet.
That's a shapy looking sheet right there.
Shapey looking, lots of shapes, lots of fucking polygons going on under there, pal.
We find out soon enough that it's Michael in disguise. Now, I want to point out that he never does anything like this again. He doesn't hide. He doesn't play tricks. He just fucking kills in the rest of the movies. Like he'll do
Hmm.
something where like he'll put a body somewhere or something where it'll be like, "Oh shit." But he doesn't like go in disguise where he's like the fucking hitman, in the video game, the hitman. Um
Hmm.
he's just a brutal
The Hitman
fucking
story starring Hitman.
the
Hitman as the Hitman in
hitman.
the Hitman story.
He's just a brutal fucking force of evil. But in this movie, in this moment, he's playful, and it makes it a little bit more sinister because he's kind of more childlike, like a little boy, and it
Hmm.
makes it more scary to me. Um, Michael murders Lori's friend at this point, but not before she calls Lori. She calls him, and then he sneaks up behind her and strangles her with the phone cord. But she's on the phone with Lori when it happens, but she hears the whole murder happen and assumes that she's having sex with old man Bob. So she's just
Well,
like,
I
"You
mean,
guys keep me out of your depravity."
there's a precedent for it. Sure, like she would imagine that they could be fucking with her. They seem like the people that would do that, like that
Yeah,
weird,
right.
gross couple.
Absolutely. I mean,
This
listen
is
to what Bob
foul.
says.
Oh yeah, I'm 47. Oh yeah, and Canadian for some reason.
But near
Right
the end
there,
of
right there. Oh yeah.
But near the end of it, though, she starts to be a little weirded out by the way that she sounds and the way it ends it. So
Hmm.
this is where Lori starts to become a little weirded out and concerned about everything. She starts putting together,
Sure.
like, wait a minute. Tommy was saying some shit about the boogeyman and some weird stuff's going on.
Hmm.
Loomis is still outside the old Myers house when he's looking around and he spots the old hospital car that Michael had stolen earlier in the movie.
Which presumably had been there for the whole hour that he was
Shh,
standing there and he
no!
just noticed it.
Wait, what? What is that?
I'm a psychologist, not a detective.
Perhaps I shouldn't have
I'm
been standing in bushes scaring little boys.
he should have been more observant. Like, what are you doing? It even says, what does it say? Smith Grove
Yeah,
Sanitarium or
yeah,
Smith
it
Grove
says the hospital name on it.
Mental Health or something?
Yep.
And like, dude, it might as well have a neon orange arrow pointing to it. Like, come on, dude. You've been standing there for an hour. Just stop picking on little kids. Stop saying the word ass like a weirdo. Lonnie, get your ass out of
Get your
there.
ass out
Like,
of here.
like, fuck. Oh,
I
what a
fucking loved it.
weirdo.
It was kind of it's cool how he figures it out, but like the way that the rest of the movie pans out, where it's like this is happening in real time, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that part would have happened way earlier. You know what I mean?
Sure, sure.
Um, so leaving the kids sleeping upstairs, Lori decides, hey, maybe I'm gonna go check out what's going on over at Lindsay's house with Annie. Again,
Yeah.
the score kicks in, and I fucking
Oh,
love it because it just plays
terrific.
as Lori creeps across the street, and it's all done in one shot. But
Oh
it
yeah.
doesn't feel like it's taking too long. It feels perfect with the score. It's just like, oh, we're building the dread because we know what's going on over there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Terrific stuff.
she goes around the back after knocking on the front door and no one answers. The back door is open and she slips inside like old man Bob.
And oh God, no. Now I'm
That,
scandalized by that
that
comment.
took you a second.
And we, as the audience, know that Bob's body is gone.
Right, because when she
Lori
walks
doesn't
inside
know
of the
that.
kitchen, there's no body, there's no blood, there's
Hmm.
no nothing. Uh,
And it's like, oh my God, Lori, no.
she starts wandering through this dark house where we know she's creeped out because that's why she's there. She's concerned. Why doesn't she try to turn on any of the lights?
I don't know. Plot. Plot convenience. But still, it's just like turn on the lamp.
I immediately turn on a light in any dark room,
Hmm.
even in my own house, because I'm always scared there's a monster in there.
Because you watch too many horror movies as a kid because you're a sinner.
So she makes her way upstairs and she finds Annie's body is in the bed with Judith's gravestone right above her. And it's this very crazy scene. She's sitting there, arms open, wide, like she's on a cross. And we just see here lies Judith. And it's like candles are in there, maybe. I can't remember.
So
Yeah.
think about this tableau, okay? Think about the process that had to go into this. Michael, seemingly a mindless murder machine, not only carried his sister's headstone out of the graveyard, he carved a pumpkin, put a candle inside said pumpkin, posed Annie's body underneath the headstone, lit the pumpkin, knowing Laurie Strode would come in the house because the only light that Laurie sees is the light from those candles in that pumpkin. And I would like to also note that famously, marble is very, very heavy. And that amount of marble would be extremely heavy, probably about 600 pounds, maybe. Um,
What are you trying to say?
and the bed is perfectly flat.
What?
It is not smushed down at all. Like he just put this
Oh,
headstone right there, and it's like, oh, come on. But like he was just waiting for Lori, like, ooh, 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 she's gonna love this. She's gonna love this. Look at
he's
this. Look
just
at
like
this.
watching her outside the window to light the candles at the perfect moment so they don't blow out.
He just like tee hee to
You're
himself
like,
on that
oh my
Captain Kirk
god, oh
mask.
my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my
she's
god,
gonna
oh
she's gonna laugh so hard when she sees her dead friend.
my god. Okay. Lori then, as she backs up, Lori, like in complete shock and disbelief, starts to
Mhm.
back out of the room, and she hits the closet that springs open. And who falls downward out of that closet? Nobody but old man Bob.
Old man Bob, who has somehow been secured there by his waist and has stayed up as no, because it was the doorway behind her, right?
Oh, is the door she came in?
Yeah, because the closet that pops open is where PJ Souls' body
Right.
is
Okay,
stored.
so she had to walk under that body to get in that room.
Yeah,
How the fuck did she not see that?
because it was dark. She didn't turn on any lights because if she had been
I'm
half
gonna,
as smart as the movie told us she was, she would turn on like a light.
I guess maybe it was one of
You,
those houses where they have high ceilings, so it
you
was really
lied to me,
dark
John
up there.
Carpenter.
I don't know, man.
And
I feel like I would have seen a
his
body above the door I walked in.
right, you probably would have smelled Bob smell like he just banged and drank a bunch of beers too. You know what I mean? You would have
What a
smelled
great
the
smell.
alcohol and smelled and his body swings down and Lori freaks out and she backs up, backing into a cabinet that pops open. And the cabinet pops open and PJ Souls' body is stuffed in the cabinet. So she
Yes.
screams and backs away into another doorway.
And who, as
Are
she's
you going to say
screaming,
it?
who pops out of the shadows as she's screaming?
As she's standing in this doorway, in the shadows behind her, Michael just steps forward
Just
so the
enough.
light barely catches that white mask. And it's the
Yes.
scariest thing ever.
It's so
That
cool.
she notices him and bolts.
Well, he stabs her in the shoulder.
Oh, no, no,
Yep, yep. He stabs her
no,
in the
Lori,
shoulder.
no.
She doesn't notice him at first, and then he raises the knife, and then she notices him, and he
Mm-hmm.
fucking straight up gets her in the shoulder.
Oh my
And
God.
she tumbles over a banister and down the stairs, reminding me of that cop that was killed in Psycho who falls down the stairs, which is one of my favorite
Mm-hmm.
scenes, favorite shots in all of cinema. That way that they filmed it, where it's like on a dolly or something, and he's falling
Mm-hmm.
backwards. Oh my God, it looks so fucking cool.
But Lori doesn't fall backwards down the stairs.
No, she
She goes
fucking,
over the
oof,
banister at the
yeah,
top. So she's
yes,
straight down
it's
and she
hard.
takes it like a fucking champion, dude.
Yeah, because she
She
hops
lays
up
there for a
quick.
second. Did you notice at the top of the stairs, Michael steps into view?
Yes.
Like she looks up the stairs and he just kind of
Yep, like
juts into
clocks in
view.
on her. Yep.
She
Immediately,
goes, "Nope."
the second he sees her after she falls, the chase begins. Laurie tries to get out the back door, but Michael blocked it with a rake. He breaks into the
Hmm.
room, and she breaks out the window. Laurie runs
She
down the
barely
street.
escaped.
Yes, Laurie runs down the street begging for help, but no one helps. Must be Illinois for sure.
Oh yeah.
She makes her way back to
What
Tommy's house.
did you say?
She makes her way
She
back to.
literally they no they not only ignore her,
Oh yeah,
she
let's
goes to
let's
the
let's let's
house with
get back into that a
porch
little bit
light.
more.
The porch light is on at this house. She beats on the door. She's asking for help. She's presumably bleeding from the stab wound in her shoulder. She's busted up from falling off this landing. She's staggering and stumbling through the street,
Yes,
crying out for help. And they not only, you see somebody's head in the window, they not only turn off the porch light, but then they lock the door.
and they close the
There's
blinds.
and turn off the light inside. Yeah. It's like, who the fuck are you people?
Yeah, it's really bogus. They like literally look at
It's
her
not
and they can see that she's disheveled.
right. And it's not like she's standing there saying, "Is Tamara home?" You know, like it's not, strangers
Nice.
aren't going to show
Good
up,
one.
but like it's obviously a person in distress and you're not going to help her. Who
Nope.
are you?
Why would they? Um,
Assholes.
She makes her way back to Tommy's house, and Michael is following. I love the idea of screaming and begging on the door to try to get someone to help you while a serial killer is right behind you. You think that she would try to just run somewhere else so that he wasn't following her, but still,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna stand on this one porch where no one's even helping me and just keep screaming while he's advancing on me. And also, it's even funnier to me that she runs to the door, banging on the door that Tommy's inside,
Mm-hmm.
basically like, "Hey, we're gonna be over here. Come over
Right.
here to where the children are as well." You know what I
And
mean?
Michael is walking very calmly behind her. He is not hurried. He is
Yeah,
not rushed. He's
not
just at
giving
a
chase.
walking pace.
The
And
sheriff
like
that I skipped a whole paragraph. Go ahead, sorry.
and Tommy barely lets her in. Like she's like, "Hey, it's me." He's like, "Who is this?" Because they were asleep. Like him and Lori were up there asleep, and she bangs on the door and screams, "Tommy, Tommy, let me in!" He comes down and lets her in barely as Michael's like stepping onto the tree lawn behind her. It's really threatening.
Yeah. That whole fucking shot is really cool. I That's one of the other reasons I've always liked Michael Myers the most is because of the way he never runs or anything. That
Mm-hmm.
being said though, the thing I like the most about the Friday the 13th remake they did with Jared Padalecki was that they had Jason like run and stuff. Cause seeing giant ass Derek Mears fucking sprint towards you is fucking terrifying.
Isn't he like almost 7 feet tall?
Yes, and like
He's like
those
six
shots
eight
where
or
he was
something like
like,
that, right?
yeah, and they did those shots in that remake where like he would either not like he wouldn't like I don't remember if he would sprint because it's been a while since I've seen it, but they would show him like legit just like fucking hulk up and just be like fast as fuck, and to me that's pretty scary.
Let's be completely fair. You have to have somebody that big if Jared Padalecki is one of your main characters because
Oh
he's
yeah.
already 6'2". Like he's a huge guy as well. So you have to have your character be more imposing than him. But like I actually
Yes.
really like that one. Mostly because like I was
I
like,
did
"Oh
too.
wait, Jared Padalecki's in a Jason movie? Okay, cool." Because I don't care about Jason. Okay. The
He's
only
all
Friday the
right.
13th movies I've ever seen are that one and Jason X. Like I've never seen any other Friday the
Yeah,
13th.
Jason Goes to Hell is cool. Jason Friday 13th Part 2 is cool, and Jason Takes Manhattan is cool. Those are the main ones. Uh, but no, I agree with you. Jared Padalecki is a big bonus for that for me because that was right when I was getting into Supernatural when I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they did the tunnel systems in that movie too was cool because it's always like
Yeah.
I like when you answer questions in lore and anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was like, oh, well, that's how he always appeared places. You can run as fast as you wanted to, but he'd always be right there because he had the tunnel
Right.
system. I was like, that is so
Mm-hmm.
fucking cool. Um,
Pretty darn cool.
but anyway, so Lori ends up getting back inside the house, and we can see that there's a window open. And so, oh shit, he probably got
Yeah.
in too.
Yeah.
And how do we know for sure? Because we can hear his fucking emphysema again. He lunges out of the shadows and Lori shanks him in the fucking neck with a crochet needle. It's
Oh
so
my
fucking
God.
dope.
It's good shit.
He's just fucking takes it and fucking falls to the ground. I think he whimpers too, which is great because he's like, oh!
It looked pretty
It went in
violent. She
deep.
got him pretty good.
Yeah. So she believes she kills him and throws his knife to the side. And she's sitting there just fucking crying. The sheriff pulls up to get Loomis and he tells him, like, hey, sheriff, that's his fucking car. Remember this guy I've been warning you about? He's been here the whole fucking time.
Oh my God.
We cut back to Lori, who's now checking on the children all the way upstairs. And she's telling them that they need to go outside and go get help.
Hmm.
And Tommy says, was it the boogeyman? Is he gone? Is he dead? And she's like, yeah, yeah, I fucking got his ass. He's gone. And as she's saying that, behind her, Michael is coming up the fucking stairs, and the kids just fucking freak out, as you should.
God, it's so scary.
It's so cool the
And
way
they,
because they don't focus on it. You just see him loom, like you kind of see him in the background come up a little bit,
hmm
and then the kid's reaction is how you know for sure it's him. It's fucking cool.
yeah.
So
And
then go ahead, go ahead.
the the kids, like she gets them out the door and tells them to go get help. She's calling, but the phone is dead, which presumably that means Michael had the presence of mind to pull her phone cords out.
Yeah.
Come on, whatever. And the kids like just happened to run into Dr. Loomis walking calmly down the street,
Well,
right?
that one
Or is
that
that
I think what happens is uh, I don't know how they get there because they get into the sheriff's car when he pulls up and notices that it's Loomis. Oh, I think some people were reporting that there was somebody who was acting crazy on the street because of
hmm
Lori. So that's why
yeah,
they go to that neighborhood. And then when they pull up, the kids are running outside and Loomis runs into them,
yeah.
if I
And
remember
this is
correctly.
when yeah, because this is when Lori hides in the closet.
Yeah, Lori hides in the closet upstairs while the kids are outside. But before she does, she opens the doors to the balcony to try to confuse him to make him think like, "Oh, she went. Oh, what's this? She must have went. She's not inside this house anymore. She must have went outside the window."
She's very smart. I really,
So
really like it. I really like Laurie Strode.
yeah, I do too. It's really fucking cool. They kind of like do a callback to this in Halloween Resurrection, where Laurie's in a mental asylum or a mental hospital, and I don't, what's the proper word for that? Laurie's Laurie's in a facility,
Hmm.
and Michael breaks into it to try to kill her, and she's like following her up to the roof, and she does this thing to trick him to make him think she went over the edge. It's kind of I think
Wow.
it's a callback to this. But anyway, uh she's hiding in the closet and she opens the balcony to confuse him, but no dice. He's like, fuck that, I'm not stupid.
Hmm.
And he breaks into the closet where he is. And he's like full on freaking the fuck out, just trying to get in there. And it's so believable too. The way his
Hmm.
arms are getting caught up in the things and the coat hangers, it looks like he's getting aggravated and pissed off. And she's freaking out. And it's so believable. It's so good. She reaches up and she has the wherewithal to grab a fucking coat hanger and untwist it to make it into an object that she can stab him with, and she gets him right in the fucking eye.
Right in the eye, and he grabs his eye and falls out of frame. It's very, very good stuff.
And it's so
Even
real, it's believable. Nick Castle
hmm
plays it off so good.
very well.
So he lunges back out of the closet, grabbing his face and he's freaking out. And he drops his knife, and she quickly grabs it and just fucking guts him, just gets him right
Hmm.
in the stomach. She killed him again, she thinks. And she sends Tommy and Lindsay. Wait, no, Tommy and Lindsay are still in the fucking house, I guess.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tommy and
because
Lindsay
he's
were still in
laying
the
there.
house. Yeah, Tommy and Lindsay were still in the house. So she goes and gets Tommy and Lindsay and tells them to go get help. And they run outside, and this is the perfect moment for us to just sit with our final girl and realize that she saved the day. She's been through a lot. What a fucking terrible
Hmm.
moment. So we got our close up. But in the background, we see Mikey sit his crazy ass up, and we know that this shit is still on.
It was so good. And the only thing that kind of got negative in this specific moment for me was I really feel like he should have been in focus. Like, did they
Yeah.
have split diopter,
No,
the
they didn't.
ability to
He
do
was out
like
of
in
focus.
1978?
Oh, did they? No, I don't know.
Because
I
like
feel like
if
they
you would
did.
have done if you would have done the split diopter shot, you would have been able to have him in focus. But we have this beautiful shot of Jamie Lee Curtis like leaned up against the frame of the door, freaking out. She's weeping in terror, and this big man just sits straight up with all just using full abdominal muscles that she presumably just stabbed him in. But that's neither here nor there. He doesn't push
I didn't
himself
even
up; he
think
just
about that.
sits straight up, and it's really, really alarming and creepy.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like you were saying, the shot is she's framed so beautifully in it. Like you can even see like the stab on her shoulder that he got on her.
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks so cool. So after he sits up, we cut back to Loomis outside, and he hears the kids screaming, and he runs towards the house.
Mm-hmm.
In the background of the shot with Jamie, Michael stands up and approaches Lori from the back. She then turns around and sees him, and in a struggle, Lori knocks off his mask. Now, this is the only time, besides the remakes and like the continuations, I mean, that they just did with Danny McBride, that
Mm-hmm.
Michael is ever seen without his mask.
Which I don't think that they should have done that. Like,
I
I
don't
don't think
either.
we needed to see it. We would have been able to maybe have him in shadow, cut away from him, and see him yanking it back on. Because, like,
Yeah,
I think showing his face humanizes him, right? Like, you want him
yeah,
to be this faceless abomination,
a
this
shape.
faceless, unstoppable killer. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I think that's why they never do it again. Plus, they did a lot of prosthetics on him where his eye honestly kind of looks like Sloth's eye from the Goonies, and it looks a lot like that.
yeah.
Um, so
This is when your boy, Dr. Samuel Loomis, busts in and unloads his full, all six chambers in his
yeah.
revolver into this dude. He shot him six total times, and Michael falls out the window from the balcony where Laurie had already opened the door down into the yard below.
Yep. And then when Loomis walks over to see his body, motherfucker is already gone.
And Laurie asks him in this iconic shot, "Was it the boogeyman?" And Dr.
And
Loomis answers her, "Yes, yes, I believe it was." You're like, "Oh my God, that's so
and
good."
then fucking the snare kicks in the second that the credit goes black, and then
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, I got goosebumps just talking about it. It's so fucking good. It's so effective. It's so effective. It's super
I too am
effective.
aesthetic.
It's super effective. Uh, the next few shots are all images of the aftermath of Michael's terror. We hear him breathing over all of this, implying that he's not dead at all.
Mm-hmm.
That and him walking away from being shot.
Yeah,
And then credits. And that is the film Michael Myers. That
Michael
is the
Myers as Michael
that is,
Myers in the Michael Myers story.
that is the film Halloween by John Carpenter from 1978. One of which that we have now taken back from Jesus that he stole from us.
Oh. I really wanted to say thank you for sharing this with me because I hadn't. This is one of those movies you always hear about. Like it's a classic, it's a
Yeah.
classic, it's a classic. And I think we talked about earlier, like that whole weird phenomenon of like all these angry Gen Xers and late boomers like
Yep.
yelling at you. If you haven't seen this movie, you don't even like this, whatever
Yep.
gatekeeping crap. But like I thank you so much for sharing this with me through this podcast because this was a treat to watch, and this makes me feel like some things are considered classics for a reason, not
Fuck
just
yeah,
because a
man.
lot of people have decided. Like this is there's so much craft of filmmaking here.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much
Hell
attention
yeah.
to detail and atmosphere. It's just what a terrific movie.
Agreed 100%. And thank you for watching it with me and doing this with me because it was so fun to nerd out about it. And this is my all-time favorite horror movie, and I don't get to talk about it a lot because my wife's not huge into horror because it gives her anxiety, like really bad. She has
Sure,
clinical anxiety. And so I
sure.
don't really get to watch them a lot. So just goofing out about it and talking about it has been fucking fun. And and the
Yeah.
reason we're doing it makes it all the better and more fun. You know what I mean? It's a
Hmm.
powerful reason to do it, I feel. And to give this fucking awesome movie more power is fucking cool. Well, how do
Yeah.
you feel after watching this? Do you feel like how do you feel you would have experienced it watching it back in the day if you were allowed to? Do you think that you would
Oh,
have been
this would have
like,
given me some kind of complex. I would have been scarred
yeah?
for a very, very long time.
Yeah, do you
Famously,
think
I was terrified of the Wheelers from Return to Oz. Like I
Oh,
could
that's
not
normal,
walk
buddy.
past my back door.
Yeah, that's
Like
that's normal, buddy.
I was a very scared little kid.
Those
If I
guys
would have
scared
seen
the
this
fuck out of
before
me.
I was maybe 16, I probably, oh my God, they're so terrifying.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
if I would have seen this before I was 16, it probably would have scarred me for a very long time.
I saw
And I think
this.
that might have been because I wasn't exposed to horror films as a younger person. One of the things my mom would always say is like, life is scary enough. I don't need you guys to be exposed to more scary things.
Yeah.
And like also the whole Bible verse of like, you were not given a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And like God doesn't want you to even have fear in your life. So why would you invite it by watching horror movies? And now
My
I'm
dad
a
used
very
to say that.
fearful person and crippled by anxiety and being afraid to even go in public. So thanks,
Hmm.
mom.
Yeah, that backfired their mother. But you're working through it, buddy. It's gonna be okay. And fuck that noise. Fuck the shit they put you through. And you got it. You got it. My dad
A
used to
lot of
say the
people
same.
went through a lot worse. I can't talk shit.
Hey, don't
Just
do
because I
that.
wasn't allowed to watch
Hey,
horror movies doesn't mean.
I'm gonna. I listen to you, and I hear what you're gonna say on a lot. I hear what you're saying on a lot of things. But what I won't allow you to do, brother, is diminish your trauma, brother, and act like other people's was worse. Cause your trauma still fucking matters, brother. All right, all right,
You ain't
brother.
gonna do jack, dude.
All right, thank you, brother.
Uh-huh.
All right, brother.
Uh-huh.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
My dad used to do the same thing about like horror and saying the exact same thing of why would you invite that into your life. And my dad also believed that horror movies were literal pathways for demons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get to watch really horror movies unless I was someone else's house. And I think I explained that the last time we recorded. My buddy Rashad, I went over his house and I watched all these movies over at his
Right.
house. The Child's Play
Mm-hmm.
movies I saw when I was like 8, but I saw them at a friend's house. I went out and seeked
Ah.
this stuff out because my father was so hardcore about not letting us see it. You know what I mean? But
Mm.
with this one, uh, seeing it at such a young age, I was kind of I was kind of numb to the horror points of it already because I had seen so many
Mm-hmm.
other scary movies. So like this one, as far as like scary, wasn't that scary to me, but I still got the dread that it was trying to show to me. You know what I mean? I
Sure.
always looked at this movie as from more of a production standpoint, if I'm going to be honest. I've always looked at this movie as like
Yeah.
a technical thing. Like, oh, this shot is
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. This dialogue is amazing. This acting is so good. And I think that unfortunately I looked at a lot of movies that way, even as a child. And I've been kind of rewatching movies like that. So it's another reason I'm stoked for this podcast with you is because like rewatching movies
Mm-hmm.
from that point of view is really fucking cool, you know? So, and then looking at it from the
Yeah.
lens too of like taking back the power of like our parents being like, you're not allowed to watch that because my belief is that it's gonna send you to hell is fucking crazy.
Yeah. I think that's a little wild, right?
Absolutely.
I get that's probably rooted in some kind of parental,
Yeah.
responsibility, but at the same time, you can't censor people like that without it turning out badly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
It's
that's
like
to like
banning
the 10th
books.
degree too.
People need art to understand things and to cope with things and to relate to the world around them. And like just
Yes.
restricting what kind of specific, unless it's really like actually harmful stuff. Like I would definitely try to monitor my kid, access to really gross stuff, but I mean,
Yeah,
not just some spooky movies. You know what I mean? And there's nothing in this that's like, this is actually like a my first slasher type of deal. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't
absolutely.
have super amounts of sex in it. It doesn't have a bunch of nudity. There's like one couple seconds of a little bit of nudity, but it wasn't anything gross. There
Yep.
wasn't a bunch of drug use other than marijuana, which is just extra cigarette. You know what I mean? It's
And
not
it's technically not even a drug anymore. It was taken off a list by the
right.
government of shit. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Sure.
It's also
It's
like
there's not
my first slasher is probably the best way you could describe this movie.
sure. It's
I
very,
love
very
that.
low key. There's not a bunch of gore. Nobody's getting their head pulled open or anything. It's not like you're going straight into something crazy. You know what I mean?
My teenage perfect my teenager has like been saying that they really want to try to start watching some horror movies because they know I'm really into
Hmm.
them. And I feel like this
Yeah.
is probably a really good jumping point for that for sure. So I'm stoked to watch this with them for the first time too.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I
And it
think
would
that
be a wonderful experience to watch it with somebody who'd never seen it before. I would love that to watch it with like a younger person who was experiencing it for the first time. Like you get
yeah,
to see the look on their face and how they react to it. This is just very interesting. Be very
yeah.
fun.
Well, this was your first time seeing it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
But
so that was
I watch it alone on a little tiny phone,
but it was still awesome
which is no fun.
experiencing it with you, like even through if it was just through texting while you were watching it and stuff, and then like having this
Sure.
experience because like I said, it's just yeah, getting to see you be able to take that back because like we're gonna be going back and forth on movies that, like I wasn't allowed to watch, you weren't allowed to watch and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's cool to see it from the outside, and it makes me excited to be able to see it from the other side too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Well, be prepared. You mentioned me texting you. Be prepared to read a lot of me complaining about our next movie because next week or next time we show up, we're going to be watching Beetlejuice because I have never seen Beetlejuice before, and I know I'm going to complain about it because I
You
do not like early Tim Burton. I don't like any Tim Burton. I just
you
don't.
don't like early Tim Burton? That's like the only good Tim
I don't
Burton.
like any Tim Burton. Tim
Oh,
Burton's
come
annoying.
on, man.
Big Fish is good.
Big Fish is
I
amazing.
like Big
Some of
Fish.
Tim Burton's movies are good. His early movies are good. You got your Batman 89, good. You got your Batman
Never seen it.
Returns, pretty good. You got
Never
your
seen it.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure, phenomenal.
Never seen
All right, so we got to add that to the list unless
it.
you weren't allowed, were you not allowed to watch it?
Oh, I would never have been allowed to have Pee Wee's Big Adventure in my house
We got to watch
ever.
it
I
then.
don't know
Pee-wee's
why, but my mom
it
never
was
would have
probably
let
because of
us watch
Paul
it.
Rubens, to be honest, his shit that he
Maybe.
got in trouble for, you know.
Well,
You know about
maybe. Was that before 1995?
I think so. I think it was like right around that time. My
Oh,
parents didn't care about that
oh
though.
well.
I know that. My dad was a creep,
Mhm.
so he was like, "Well, whatever." Not calling Paul Rubens a creep. As the way honestly, the way I see it, homie was in a theater for that kind of stuff. So like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, same with like what
It
happened
just
with
seems
Fred
like that's what you're
Willard.
supposed to do there.
Right. People were like, Fred Willard was in a porno theater and he touched himself. I was like, that's gross, but like, that's a gross place for gross stuff. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, yeah. What do you expect? That's a porno theater.
Sorry that
It's not like
the
you were
internet
doing it
wasn't a
when.
thing yet.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
But
Fred Willard. Come on, buddy. Wi-Fi had been a thing for a long time.
I had a great time talking with you about this movie.
Ditto,
It
buddy.
was a
For
lot of
real.
fun.
Did you was there anything that you read about from any of those websites or anything about like the consensus on this garbage for the Christian view?
Uh, I
The
read
when I say the garbage, I mean they see it as garbage.
I actually read one review that was like somebody desperately trying to pull a sermon out of watching a horror movie. It was some repressed ass person who just wanted to watch a slasher movie and they had to put Jesus in it somewhere. And I was like, it's like the tale of the Good Samaritan.
Oh
You what?
no.
Come on, dude. And they were like
Who was the good
pushing. They
Samaritan?
were. Well, the point was that there are no good Samaritans, and you should lean
Oh,
on Jesus, and
the final girl's
and
the
that
good
like nobody's
Samaritan.
actually going to help you. It's
Right.
just like you it just having to shoehorn something into your worldview. And like I was kind of actually shocked that they had watched the movie at all and gave it any attention and not just turned it off because it
It's
seemed to me it really did through reading that review. that they were desperately trying to justify them
Watching it.
watching Halloween. Yeah, like, oh, I watched it for Jesus. I watched it so I could make a sermon about it.
Yeah,
Like,
there was
what is this movie?
there's a Christian author called Phil Phillips who wrote like Turmoil in the Toy Box and stuff, and he would write about how he had to go to the mall to buy like these toys for research, and it felt like he was just buying.
Research,
Yeah, it felt like he was totally just buying He-Man figures just because he wanted to, and then be like, "Whoa, this is for my Bible book."
right? He really wanted to get those muscly men's.
Right. He was like, "Yeah, but have you ever seen Skeletor? He's actually not a skeleton."
He's really fleshy. He's got some nice pecs. I like the way his lats look. He's really sexy. I mean, really creepy guy.
Oh, scary. He's scary. Not
Nothing
sexy,
wrong with that,
scary.
Phil.
Scary guy. Scary.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us as we took back this movie from our weird childhoods and the Jesus that stole this movie. Um, we really enjoyed talking about it, and hopefully you enjoyed listening to us talk about it. And we will be back next time, which I believe would either be 1 week or 2 weeks. Not quite sure.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll be back next time when we watch Beetlejuice with Michael Keaton and other people, and ew,
Ew.
which I've never seen. And
Uh,
Donovan, you've seen, and you really like that movie, so
I
it's going to be
do.
very interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun for sure. And then we're gonna find out if you're even gonna try to see Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
I'm never going to watch that. Get out of here.
Well, until then, let's plan out our next heist so we can get our movies back. See you later, everybody. Bye.
All right, bye. Cool.